Hello, everybody. Just waiting for people to file in just now. Okay, so we'll get started in the next few minutes. Okay, so just take a few minutes to prepare. Okay, we'll wait just about another minute or so just while we do a quick quorum check, I believe, and then we'll begin with the proceedings. 2 seconds. Okay, welcome everybody. It's nice to see everybody again. 2 seconds, I'm just changing my notifications here. Okay. Yeah, great. Hope that everybody had a nice break. Nice to see everybody once again. Happy Burns Night. For those of you who didn't know, it's the 25th of January. That's, of course, Burns Night. Please keep all poetry to the end after council, or at least in the AOCB section, okay? If anybody wants to do any particular readings, we'll hear that at the end. Okay. First of all, we'll just begin with the housekeeping. If you'll give me a second to get that up. Okay. Yeah, so we'll begin with the normal overview of the council, the rules, everything like that. Give a rundown of everything that's going on, and then we'll move on to the apologies. Okay, so welcome to the first council session of the year. My name is Daniel O'Connor. As hopefully you know by now, I'm the chair of the student council. I'll be taking you through the evening. Okay, so rules for council. Of course, please remember that this is a public forum. Please don't say anything here that you wouldn't want to be said elsewhere. Please raise your hand if you want to speak. Just remember that this is being recorded, or will soon start to be recorded. I didn't actually take note that the recording started, but just please be aware that that is occurring, and that you shouldn't say anything or be otherwise rude in any way that you wouldn't want to be seen in public otherwise. Okay. The recording has just started now. Okay, so from now on, please don't be rude. Okay. Right, apologies. We have a somewhat long list of apologies tonight, so I'm actually just going to forego reading out all of the names, but we do have a list of apologies that is available to you. Yeah, okay, so I'm going to just include that in with the documents that we have today, and I'll move on from that section, as we won't take any time going through all of them just now. But okay, we have the approval of the minutes from the last meeting. That was the meeting just before Christmas, as you'll recall. Yeah, so we'll get onto that just now then, I suppose. Everybody should have access to those in the council documents if you want to know what they are, or where they are, or what you want to know. So Ellie's just posted in a form just now. If you're happy with the meetings, please go in and vote. A quick reminder on voting. If you approve the minutes, please vote yes. If you reject the minutes and think that they need to be rewritten for any particular reason, please say no. And if you wish to, you can also abstain. Okay. Martin, would you be able to just turn your camera off, please? So a quick reminder while everybody's just in the last few seconds of voting there, please do go vote now quickly if you can. But a quick reminder, of course, that we're setting the time for voting to 2 minutes to ensure that there's no issues with that or any sort of controversies over, extending or shortening the time for any particular benefit. We're keeping it dead on 2 minutes from now on for all votes, okay? Once that has been called, the vote is then set. That brings us to the end of that vote, so we'll just bring up the results now. We'll just be getting those up in a second. And there we go. So, on the subject of the minutes of the last council, the December council, the last one in 2021, the minutes have been approved with 25 for, 1 abstention and 4 against. Okay. Okay, great. Nice and simple. Nice, easy start to the year. Okay. So something I want to bring up before we continue is that we've slightly altered the course of council this time. The sabbatical officer accountability sections have been moved to the end of the council, whereas the motions and the bylaw changes have been brought forward to the start. So we're going to move on to those in just a second. First of all, we've got a couple of things to cover, but there's been a shift in the way that those two have been put on. Now, obviously, this has been a year where we've made quite a lot of differences, changes to the running of council, and we want to know what you think. At the end of the session, we're going to take your opinions on it, and you can let us know what you think. But that's the way that we've set it just for this evening. If you don't like it, it can be changed back later, okay? But if anybody was wondering, that's why we're doing that just now. Okay, so with that said, we are then moving on to the sabbatical officer elections, which I think is a point that will be taken by Andre. Hello.
Yeah, hello. So Andre, Vice President for Education. So let me quickly get the presentation going. Okay, can you see this?
We can.
Okay, perfect. So as you might have seen, we are now going to be holding another sabbatical officer election. So this is the election where you get to elect the 5 officers that represent you over the upcoming academic year, so 2022/23. So I'll go through all of the key parts. So we have 5 roles, as I said, so hopefully you're all aware of all of these. So one of them is student president plus 4 vice presidents. So we have welfare, education, communities, and now we have an additional one, which is now going to be vice president for activities. So that is getting slightly changed from the vice president for sport. So now that role is now going to include the society side of things as well as student groups. So there are some slight changes that are coming within these new roles, and the changes have been approved by the annual general meeting about a year ago now. So I'm going to speak a little bit about the timeline. So we have the nominations that are opening on next Monday. So it's just 6 days away, and the nominations are going to be open for nearly 3 weeks. So they're closing on a Friday, the 18th of February. We decided to do things a little bit differently than we used to. So the manifesto deadline that we're going to have is going to be past the point of nomination. So we're going to be able to help candidates kind of get them going, get them thinking a little bit specifically on what they should be looking to put into those and everything like that. So we'll meet with all of the candidates to discuss that on the 22nd of February. And then in a few days, there will be the deadline for the manifestos, which is a Friday. and then the following Monday, all of the candidates will be announced on the ELSA website. So you'll be able to see who is running. So, and then there will be a bunch of other stuff, such as like Q&A debates and everything like that. So that will follow in the coming few days. And the week after, the physical campaigning will open. So we're hoping that this year we will have physical campaigning on our campuses. So far it looks like it will go ahead. And then, as every year, we'll have 3 days of voting from Tuesday till Thursday. And on a Friday, we will announce the results. So if you yourself are interested in any of the roles or any representation that we do, you can always let me know. So I'm the chair of the elections committee, so I'll be overseeing the election along with the committee and the returning officer team. And we'll have some events that will also kind of describe better what some of the positions are in case people aren't so sure. So that is all coming. So another thing that has changed quite significantly is the rules. So the rules are available on the ELSA website. So if you go to elections and election rules, you can find the most up-to-date ones. So there have been a bunch of changes, mostly to make it less bureaucratic for the candidates so they can get on with the process much easier, and they can kind of pose more in real time and respond and kind of remove some of the barriers that were put in place, as well as some other changes. So for example, sports societies and other ELSA activities, forums, committees will not be able to endorse in the upcoming election, but all individuals who are part of the associations can still endorse whoever they wish to do so, unless they're part of the elections committee. And there has been changes to the complaints, regulations and procedures. So they kind of reflect better severity of certain breaches and the impact on the election. So, and there has been some slight tweaks to make sure that we're kind of in line with some of the current situation, like the government guidelines and all of that. So that is the rules, and now it's how you can help us. So if you know somebody who will be interested in some of the positions, talk to them, have them come forward. It's quite an easy process this year, so there's not any seconders that you would require to support your nomination. So literally anyone who is a member of the association can stand, and plus you can promote it as part of your role. You know, you can speak to them about the experiences that you've had with sabbaticals, and you might have better insight from your committees about what you will want to see changed, so maybe give them some tips, or maybe you yourself want to see that change happen. So feel free to run from a Monday, and if there's anything that you would require from us, I'm going to drop my email as well as the election email so that you can give us any questions. And as I said, there will be Q&A with the current sabbatical team about their roles, manifesto workshops, and many other things. So please drop into those if you want to, if you're interested. Share some of the posts, tell people about the election, and make sure that there's candidates that actually reflect who do you want to see within that role, because it's quite a significant role, as I'm sure you're aware, for all 5 of those. So are there any questions? And I'll need to go here so I can see it. Okay, so any questions from anyone about the elections or rules or the timeline or anything else that they're unsure about that I can answer today?
Just give it a quick second there. Oftentimes it takes people a second to write out any questions if they're in the chat. but if there are none, yeah, okay, yeah. If there are none, you can always email Andre at the elections@abdn.ac.uk account or the ouseeducation@abdn.ac.uk account. So yeah, okay. Thanks for that one, Andre. Although I believe that we are coming straight back to you for the next section, aren't we? For the NUS delegation as well. So I think it would be wise to just allow you to continue.
Just a one brief moment. So we have the NUS positions. So basically we have 4 positions available for the UK delegation on top of the student president, and 5 open spots for delegation for the NUS Scotland conference. So I believe that they're taking place in late March, early April. And I believe the NUS Scotland one at least is going to be held in person. And I believe it's in Dundee. So it's kind of a great opportunity to meet other people and other leaders from across the sector that might be interested in very similar things that you are, and kind of get the National Union of Students, thoughts on what they should be focusing on over the upcoming year. And it's a great opportunity for all of our students. So this year we've agreed with the NUS that we will be taking the election slightly differently. So we will be advertising the roles on our social media here, the website, etc. But we will not be holding cross-campus ballots. So what will happen is that we will have a sort of a submission for the next student council. So if you're interested, I'll just look up the date. You can apply for this role by the time you would, submit any motions or bylaw amendments to the next council, which is Thursday, the 10th of February. So if you're interested, email ausareps@abdn.ac.uk and, have some sort of short manifesto ready for like 100, 150 words maximum with that, and it will all be distributed via, the council documents that we always get ahead of every council. And then depending on how many candidates we get, we either will have to have a vote, in which case some of the NUS election rules will apply to us. For example, 50% rounded down of the delegation will have to be female. So we will have to take some of that into account while kind of doing the voting on the floor of the council. But that means that there's all of these positions that are available. You can be an NUS delegate and a student councillor, so your current role doesn't exclude you from that. So it was not always very clear in the past. So just making sure that you know that, and and then you will get to go to a conference with our student president, Elisa. So are there any questions in particular in regards to this role or anything NUS related? I believe we have a question.
Yeah, Vice President for Communities, Camilo.
Hi, this is Camilo, and I was wondering if there will be any type of budget or financing for the trips, or will be any cost to be covered by AUSA?
I believe the travel costs, if you're referring to that, should be covered by our AUSA budget. So when you go, for example, to the conference to Dundee, you wouldn't have to pay for your travel tickets and all of that. But I don't think any of them are overnight stays, so it would be kind of a return trip.
Thank you.
Okay, cool. Are there any other questions? Just put them in chat or raise your hand if you want to ask any questions about the NUS delegation, about the election, or what the job would entail. Or alternatively, you can email Andre at alsareps@abdn.ac.uk.
That's not my email, but it's Ellie's.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can email somebody who knows what they're doing at that email. Okay. Right. I think that's you off the hook then, Andre. Right. Okay then. All right. We shall move on then. Oh wait, no, you're quite right actually. Yeah, it's not you off the hook. But give me a second, okay? Because I should just say that as well as the sabbatical officer accountability session being moved to the end of the meeting after the motions and bylaw changes, as well as that was the co-options, the committees and the 4 updates. So I just want to make that clear that a lot of stuff was moved to the end. Okay, we don't have any motions, but we do have some bylaw changes. And so for the first bylaw change, which is we've got this split into 2 sections, the removal of bylaw 10, 13 and 14, and the removal of bylaw 12. However, the removal of bylaw 10, 13 and 14 will be broken up and voted on in parts as well, okay? So I now ask the Vice President for Education as the proposer to come in and speak on this matter.
I think it will be beneficial if we just take the discussion and votes in parts. So I just did it for ease of writing up and stuff. So I'll take forward the first bylaw. So that is number 10. So basically this bylaw, proposing that we just remove it, and that is basically because this bylaw doesn't really say anything that would not be common, so it doesn't add any value to any of our procedures at the moment, other than taking up space within our bylaws and our website. So I will take any questions if anybody has any on the bylaw 10 for now.
Questions regarding the situation of bylaw 10? Yeah, Miles, I believe.
Yeah, hi, Miles, Undergraduate Education Committee. Just a brief question on bylaw 10 rule 1.3. If I'm understanding that correctly, doesn't that outline a resolution process for issues arising from conflicting interpretations of the rules? So is there any other bylaw procedure that sort of covers that type of situation, or would we be losing that completely?
Andre?
So that rule has been misinterpreted in the past because it was only basically used when it came to student council. It wasn't really used when there was an issue with societies or sports clubs or otherwise, which meant that there was meant to be a process to resolve interpretation of a certain thing. But as the bylaw says, presidential rule on it, but subject to student council. So student council overrides the president in that resolution. So we can always do that even without that. It doesn't add anything to the process, and I don't believe the president has ruled on anything like that outside of student council. So I don't think this is really something that would need to be kept. Plus, there are certain things that, different people will have responsibility on. So, for example, if it's a certain procedure, for example, for student council, then it should probably be the chair who decides on certain procedures and things like that, and they get a support from a clerk or secretary based on whatever the person supporting that is. So I hope that makes sense.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, thanks for clarifying that.
Okay. Do you have any follow-up question, Miles, or are you okay?
No, that's fine.
Okay. So any further questions regarding the removal of bylaw 10? the proposed removal of bylaw 10? Just raise your hand or put something in chat, and if not, then we'll begin with the debate. Okay, if there are no further questions, we'll move on to the debate. I believe we'll open with a speech against this bylaw change. If anybody has anything to say against this, please raise your hand or put it in chat, or otherwise make me aware that you wish to speak on the matter. And remember to please keep your speaking time to under 2 minutes, if possible. No speeches against this motion? Okay, I'm just. Okay, very well. With that out of the way, there's no debate to be had. No councils have any debate to have on this particular motion. Andre, do you wish to sum up, or would you waive that right and we'll move directly to a vote on the matter?
We'll just vote.
Okay. If we could have the voting link then, please, Ellie. To introduce this, of course, this is a bylaw change. I'm actually unsure if we've had any other bylaw changes this year. I'm unsure, but for those of you who do not know, bylaw changes require a 75% majority to pass. Okay, so for this to pass, it would have to be 75% yes, well, yeah, basically that, less than 25% no. So everybody do please go and vote now. Is it common practice to change the bylaws?
Should I answer that?
I'll answer that. I think it's mostly it happens. It's happened less this year than it does on a normal year, and it does happen fairly regularly. There was probably maybe 2 years ago when we were meeting in person. This would happen maybe every council, maybe every other council. So it's not exceptional. It's not rare by any standards. I hope that answers your question, by the way. If it doesn't, just pop another one in chat and I can help you out with it. Or somebody can help you out with it. Okay, everybody do please go and vote. Make sure that your voice is heard on the matter. This is for the complete removal of bylaw 10. It's worth noting, of course, that this won't come into... I don't think... It's worth noting that this won't come into effect immediately after the council, as this is not a motion, this is a bylaw change, so it would need to go through the trustee board as well to verify that it's a valid change and everything like that, okay? So just make sure that you get your voice heard about this one, okay? Okay, we're just coming to the last few seconds there. So voting is just about to be closed. No further votes will be taken after this point, okay? So this is it thereafter. The vote is held at that point and cannot be changed after that. So we'll just wait a second while the vote is brought up, okay? And here we go. With 22-4 and 8 abstentions, this bylaw change passes, as the abstentions are removed from the final count when assessing if it has passed or not. So it only requires 75% of the for or against. As there are no against, it gets 100% of the vote that was either for or against, and therefore the bylaw change passes. Okay. Very good. Well, very good. But we got through that one, but we have a couple more to go. So we'll go back to Andre for the second of the bylaw changes that we have tonight.
So the next bylaw is bylaw 13 that I'm wanting to propose to remove. So bylaw 13 speaks about relations with media, and basically there's two things in there. So one of them is that the OSA student president and chief executive kind of get to say what all of the sabbaticals can or cannot say to the media. Plus, they also get to decide what sports clubs and societies get to talk to media. So technically speaking, right now, if a society puts out something that Elisa is very unhappy with, there can be disciplinary action taken against them. And that is quite problematic practice, because we want our society, sports clubs, and others and the committees feel empowered to represent, who they represent. And then another part of that is just basically putting out that president should be in charge of the communication aspect of things, which is also included in bylaw 4. So it's kind of in two places. So if we remove it here, it doesn't really make much difference. So it's basically the part where it says, you have to get president's approval before publishing something with the media. So again, this is not something that we really follow. It's not something that really makes too much sense. So we want to remove this. So any questions?
Samuel, question for the Vice President. You're muted just now. Hold on.
I can. Yeah. Is that fine? Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see how it could make things remove some potential negative issues. But are there any clear benefits, positive arguments for removing it? Just, I know that's you're kind of getting my. Sorry, I haven't said that very well.
Take your time.
Well, what I'm trying to say is, I thought quite a bit about the changes, and because I haven't learned the whole constitution and how the whole system works. I really don't know the significance of all these different laws and why they were put there in the first place. So I guess what I'm saying is are the benefits, are they big enough to justify the change? Because it's sometimes they're like, if it's not broken, you don't try and fix it sometimes. And I just wondered if to try and summarize, do you feel that it's quite a direct question, sorry, do you feel you understand the significance of all the bylaws enough to understand what would to understand the significance of taking it away? That's all, because I don't know the significance of all these bylaws at all.
Andre?
As someone who actually seconded all 16, I think it was, or 17 bylaws at a time when they were created over 6 years ago, there was a lot of uncertainty in a time, and there was a restructuralizing of AUSA, so it happened all very quickly, and people at the time were quite risk averse. So we put everything into a bylaw that we thought might potentially be a problem, without really assessing whether it will really be a problem. So, and that is a bunch of things that is in it. So the bylaws themselves should function with one another, but other bylaws got amended over the years, particularly those ones that are bylaws between number 3 and 9. So those 7 got changed quite heavily, and then 10 plus basically got untouched. So there's quite an old information. So with this one, there's the issue that we don't follow it. So, and since we don't follow it, we shouldn't really have it as a rule. If we don't do that, we don't have all 250 of our activities messaging Elisa every time they want to put up a social media post. That would not really be wise. Plus, there's a part of the bylaw, so it's a section 3, where it speaks about the executive committee. The executive committee doesn't exist for more than 3 years. Okay. So because other bylaws were amended, some of this one doesn't really work anymore. And I think in this one, we will get to the bylaw 12, where there are parts that, we need to keep. But I think in this one in particular, as well as 10 and 14, I don't think there's anything that we need and isn't in another bylaw already.
Okay. Cool. That's really helpful, because I wasn't aware that it's still kind of in development, that all of this what constitution or these bylaws are in. I thought it was maybe been there for a long time. So if it's still under development, that's a really helpful answer as well. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Okay, very nice. Thank you for that explanation there, Andre. Okay, I don't think we've got any other questions. Nobody's raised their hand anyway. Does anybody else have any other questions regarding this matter? I don't believe so. Okay, with that said, then I will open the debate. If anybody has a speech against this motion, please make yourself known now. A speech against this motion. Okay, I don't think that there are any speeches against this motion. It doesn't look like anybody's going to be putting one in chat or anything like that. Okay, so with that said, I think we're going to move directly on to the voting, okay? Give it another 10 seconds just to make sure that nobody's putting in a last-minute speech against into the chat or about to raise a hand or anything like that. But Ellie, if you would, I think we're okay to move directly to the voting, as there is no debate to be had on this particular bylaw change. Okay, let's go to the voting then. Okay, the voting is now open. There is now a 2-minute timer set, and we will, as previously mentioned, the voting is of course 2 minutes for all of the votes that we're going to be holding tonight, in order to maintain the general fairness of all of the votes. Okay. So please do go vote now. So as this is a bylaw change, do please remember that this requires a 75% majority to pass, as was with the last one and with the next one and the one after that. All the votes tonight will require a 75% majority, and then to be ratified by the trustees at their next meeting. We're just getting into the last few seconds of voting now. If you haven't voted already, please make sure that you do, otherwise your vote will not be counted once the timer is stopped, okay? Okay. The voting is now over. Voting is closed. No further votes shall be counted, and we will just bring up the results and see what has happened. Okay, the results are, with 26 for, 0 against, and 6 abstentions. Once again, this bylaw change to remove bylaw 13 has passed, as it has received 100% of the votes for or against once abstentions are removed. Okay, that vote passes then. That's the end of that business, and we'll move on to the next article. Once again, we're going to invite Andre up to introduce the matter for bylaw 14, I believe.
Yeah, so Andre Kuchark, Vice President for Education. So bylaw 14, very similar reasons as the ones before. You know, the reason why we have these bylaws is that they help us govern the association, and they're meant to be as much to the point as they can. Point 1 of that bylaw: all correspondence, publication, and other documents issued in the name of AUSA shall be property of AUSA. That is a thing, regardless of whether it says it somewhere or it doesn't. So it doesn't really make a difference having it there. And then the other one is all correspondence issued in the name of committee, body of AUSA shall be signed or approved by chair, secretary, or club captain. Some of these sometimes change, so, you know, some committees and societies and sports club function slightly differently, so it is a bit of a odd one, so that, you know, if they make a special position, for example, social media person, then they could potentially have them do it as well, but based on this bylaw, they wouldn't be able to do that. So it's, again, removing some barriers that over the last 6 years didn't really make any difference, or that nobody really referred to them in any way. So any questions?
If you have any questions, do just please raise your hand or put it in chat, or otherwise make us aware of that. Samuel, again, if you would.
Yeah, I'm just double checking here. I'm sure it's the case. There's other bylaws covering this, but there's nothing to stop someone. It's kind of humorous, but there's nothing to stop someone on social media going rogue and undermining the whole organization, the society that they're representing.
Could you? Well, yeah. Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, in reality, whether we have this bylaw or not, we cannot do that really. So,
Okay.
You know, if it's depending on which activity does it, we can kind of investigate it, and we have, you know, disciplinary and other procedures. So, for example, if even the president decides to do something that would not be either legal or in line with some of our other procedures, you know, like the equality, diversity, and inclusion ones, and all of the others, you know, we have processes that cover that is not this one. So I think it's bylaw 16, is it not? one of them. Give me a second.
I was just double checking. That's all.
Yeah, so it's bylaw 16 that currently deals with any issues like that anyway.
Okay, cool. Thanks for your patience. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Samuel, for your question. If anybody else has any other questions, please just put them in chat or raise your hand and you can speak on the matter yourself. Give a few more seconds to move on from the questions section. Doesn't appear to be any questions for you, Andre. Okay. If there are no questions, we'll move directly on to the debate. In that case, could I take any speeches against this motion? Recall, we'll require a speech against this motion to begin, and then we'll move on to two sets or a set of speeches for and against, continuing on until either there is no debate or some other option happens. Does anybody have a speech against this motion to begin? Is there any debate to be had? Please just put it in chat or raise your hand, but it doesn't appear so at this point, so. May wish to start getting a voting link ready. Please, Ellie. Yeah, okay. Okay, if there's no debate to be had, then we'll move directly on to the voting, okay? Okay, the link is now up, so everybody do please go vote. The timer will have started, so 2 minutes to get your vote in. Do please make sure you get your vote in that time. And this requires a 75% majority once again to pass. Okay, just about 30 seconds left, everybody, so do please make sure that you've got your vote in if you haven't already. Last few seconds, okay. All right, voting has just closed. Let's see the results. And here they are. Okay, with 24 for and 9 abstentions, that means that this bylaw change passes. Okay? That bylaw change is passed once again. Okay? So, that's that cleared up. Once again, as I said, that will then go on to the trustees for a final approval, but that is the end of the business as far as we're concerned here in council. Okay, Andre, if you could take us on to the next item of business, please.
So I'm going to share my screen to make it a little bit easier. So can you see it?
We can.
Okay, cool. So this change is slightly less straightforward than the others. So this one is not just a straight up removal of things. So in this proposal, bylaw 12 as a thing will cease to exist. So the student association representative bylaws will no longer exist. So take it through parts. So the part 1, appointment of the representative, speaks mostly about the executive committee, which again does no longer exist. So this whole part is kind of getting removed. Then this part 2, responsibilities and representatives, is part of bylaw 3, because you will have kind of outlined what your responsibilities as a representatives are. So again, we have 2 places where it says similar things, but bylaw 3 gotten updated more often than the bylaw 12. So this is kind of old, and in bylaw 3 we have newer version. So this I would be looking to get rid of as well. And then part 3 is to an extent something that I would keep, but in slightly different format. So we've been in touch with the NUS about how they do their delegation now. So they do it differently than they used to do 6 years ago. So basically parts of this is going to get reworded and put into bylaw 3 called Student Association Council. And this part 6.10 is part of the bylaw 3, so that is how bylaw 3 ends. This is the last point on it. And basically it says the student council may request opportunities to submit motion to a conference for NUS. That is no longer an option. NUS doesn't allow us to do it. So I would want to remove that and kind of update it with the newer procedures. So kind of having the same thing, you know, student association president kind of leads the delegation and discusses things with them. The delegation should still vote in accordance to the student association policy that is passed on student council, so they shouldn't go against those policies. Plus, there should still be some sort of report from the delegation to student council about what have they done as part of their delegation, and you know what was the result at the conference. So I hope that makes sense. So I'll refresh. So removal of this part gets rewritten, and this is how it is rewritten. And that part is now going to be part of bylaw 3, Student Association Council. So it's at the very end of it if it passes. So any questions to begin with?
Questions for the Vice President for Education on this particular matter? Nothing so far? Okay, I'm noticing a pattern here, so if you don't mind, I'm going to slightly increase the speed at which we do this. So if there are no questions, then we're going to move directly to the debate section. Okay, so we're going to open that now. Could I take any speeches against taking this action? If anybody has any speeches against, it had to be that. We've just had a question from Samuel come through just as I did that. I shouldn't have sped it up. My mistake. And the question is to you, Andre. Sorry, could you explain what the co-option is at the bottom?
So the co-option is not part of this bylaw. So the co-option is the next point on the agenda. So that is a co-opting person onto one of the 10 committees, particularly the undergraduate education committee for the role of business convener. So after this vote, we will talk about that. So 2 separate things.
Thank you for that very thorough explanation of what the co-option is there. Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, sorry about that, Samuel. That might have been a little bit confusing to you, but this is unrelated to the matter that we're dealing with right now. Okay, that's the next point on the agenda that just got flashed on screen there. Okay, so that's nothing to do with us for this moment in time. Okay, so I think if that's the only question, we're gonna move straight on to the next. To the next part. Sorry, did I miss a question there? Sorry about that, Ryan. I must have missed that one there. Yeah, when the trustees next meet. But you've had that answered in chat, so just to read it out to everybody in case anybody's not reading in chat. I said that the trustees will need to meet in order to pass this. The date that they will next meet is the 8th of February, okay? Just so everybody knows. Okay, cool. Right, we'll move on to the debating section then. So if anybody wishes to speak against this motion, please let me know now. Motion to remove bylaw 12. Just let me know if you have any speeches that you would like to make on this matter against the motion. Either raise your hand or just put it in chat. And because a question came in just after I moved on there, because I was trying to save time, and I will not try to save time, and we will wait for a period of time while I'm satisfied that nobody wants to say anything on the matter. However, I'm sure it can't hurt to have the voting link ready. Okay, I don't believe that there's any speeches coming, so if we could begin the voting process then, please. If Ellie could post the link. And the link is now open, the voting is live, the timer has started. 2 minutes to get your votes in, everybody. Please go vote, and in 2 minutes' time we'll have the results for you. Once again, it's a 75% majority to pass. Okay, let's begin the voting. Okay, just into the last sort of 20 seconds or so. Yeah, okay, so we're just into the last 20 seconds or so. 10 seconds now of voting. Please make your vote known if you haven't already, but it's just finishing now. Okay, voting is closed. We'll bring up the results. Okay, once again, with 25 for and 0 against and 6 abstentions, this vote does indeed pass. Does indeed pass, okay. So, very good overall, 4 for 4 on those, on past motions. That's possibly the most success I've ever seen a bylaw change, or bylaw changes get any particular council session. Okay, that's that then. That's the bylaw change section of this concluded. Once again, I'll just reiterate that those changes are not immediate, so those bylaw changes not just been deleted straight away. It needs to go to the trustee meeting, which will be dealt with on the 8th of February for a final vote on the matter. Okay. We'll move on. So that's the end of the voting section of the evening. I said earlier that some things have been moved from the start to the end. One of those things is the co-option, which we just mentioned a second ago, so we'll deal with that. And then we'll have the accountability section starting with sabbatical officers and then the committee and forest. So that's the way the second part of this is going to run, okay? Now, regarding co-options, we have, as Andre previously mentioned, a co-option for the position of undergraduate business convener of the Education Committee. I believe the name is pronounced Yu Ching Chow. I'm not sure though, but I believe that's the case. I'm not sure if they're present tonight, or if they'd like to make any sort of speeches, or if Andre wants to make any speeches on their behalf. But if they don't, then we'll move directly to a vote on the matter as it stands.
I'll keep it very brief. So I think it's Komijuki, and she's quite keen on becoming the business convener. So I've kind of gotten her in touch with the school as well. So they're very keen to get her started. So she's excited to be on some of the committees achieving change in a business school. So if this goes through, I think she will be starting already, I think, from tomorrow. So there's a lot going on in business school.
Very well. Okay, thank you for that introduction, Andre. Okay, we'll move straight to a vote on this one, unless anybody has anything to say on the matter, or any information that you'd like to bring to light. I don't think that would be the case. So, if we could bring up a voting link, then please. Okay. Voting on that matter is now open. Everybody do please go and vote, and we will have the standard 2 minutes to ensure that there's not any conflict or biases in any direction, one way or the other. Okay, voting has just closed, and here it is. The results are in with 25 for, 1 against, and 6 abstentions. That is a pass. So Yuki, I think it was that Andre said there, Yuki is now brought onto the council, has full voting powers as a member of the council, also a member of the undergraduate education committee as the convener for the School of Business, and also a senator, of course, of the University of Aberdeen Senate. Okay. Right. That's that section dealt with. So we'll now get on to the sabbatical officer accountability section. Okay, we'll go straight to the student president then on this matter.
Hello, Alisa Köster, student president. My work report is fairly short, given that the winter break was included in the November-December wrap-up work. I believe it's quite straightforward and should answer all your questions. If you have any further questions following my work report, please direct them to me via email or on Instagram, as straight after I submitted my work report 2 weeks ago, I had an accident and technically I'm supposed to be on medical leave. So don't do what I did, make sure where you walk and don't fall on your head, because that's quite bad for you, I guess. And yeah, any questions, I'm happy to answer them in due time when I'm back.
Okay, thank you very much, student president. Get well soon, of course. Happy to see you again. But yeah, any questions should be submitted via other means. And we're not going to be doing anything with that just now. But yeah, any other means, either via email or via Instagram for questions regarding the work report of the student president just now. Okay, Andre, did you have something to say or something to ask?
Yeah, something to ask to Alisa, which she doesn't have to answer now. We can take it away, but I think it's important that it's at least stated. So can I go ahead?
Is this a question or is this a statement?
It's a question.
No, you cannot. Sorry about that. But I did say that the questions weren't going to be taken at this time for the student president, okay? If it was something that you wanted to say on the matter, unless the student president's happy to take it now, but, you know, I was asked to say that she, you know, she wasn't really supposed to be coming along to council tonight, but she's coming along anyway, so nobody else is going to be taking a question, so or giving a question, so unless the student president is prepared to do this for you, then I'm not going to ask it to the student president.
What I would suggest we do is, for accountability reasons, that anyone who wishes to ask a question to me publicly can do so today, that we have them on the record, but I will be refraining from answering them today just to make sure that I'm of full health when I produce my answers. Okay,
if that's what you're happy to do, then Andre, we can hear your question now. But as we said, just to reiterate, that no answers will be given to these questions, at least not immediately.
Yeah. So, Andre, Vice President for Education, as you probably noticed, I always read bylaws and constitution. So. And one of the things that is in it is regarding the appointment of the trustees. So there is a clause in it about appointment of both student and external trustees that basically asks the student council to approve any nomination of anybody who becomes student or external trustee by a simple majority. And if they want to rerun for that position, then they need to resubmit every 2 years, and if my memory works correctly, I don't think I've ever seen anything like that, most definitely not in the past 2 or 3 years, which means that none of them should have been appointed since they haven't been ratified by student council. Is there anything that you can point us to, why this has happened or how it's going to be fixed? Clearly not today, as it's quite a complex issue, but have something for the following student council could be really useful, because we shouldn't really do, it's one thing if we don't follow some bylaws. If we go against our constitution, it's a little bit different caliber.
Okay, thank you for that, Andre. Obviously, that's an important point, an important question. But if unless the student president is going to change what she said already, then the question is out there. But we're not going to answer this just now. I'm sure that everybody wants to know the answer, so we'll make sure that is dealt with at some point in the future in the public eye. But for now, we're just going to move on. The question is out there and will be answered, but not now. Is that fair to everybody? Okay. Doing the best we can here. Okay. Yeah. With that said, then, unless the student president has anything else to say, then we'll move on to the next bylaw, the next work report. Okay. Thank you, Elisa, and get well soon. Okay, Andre, could we have your work report then, please? Work report of the Vice President for Education.
Yeah, and I promise it's the last time you're here for me tonight, so I'll keep it brief. So lots of things have been happening, so I haven't been, I don't believe, at the last student council, so my work report is for 2 months instead of just one. So we have been kicking off our class review task and finish group, so we're going to now conduct interviews and and kind of focus groups with staff and students to kind of see what we can improve in that. Then we had a lot of other things happening, so we have been making progress to some of the university education strategies. So, for example, we're now, reviewing the graduate attributes and the absence monitoring and all of that, and pastoral review that Ivana is more involved in than I am, and many other things that you can read about. And yeah, and externally I have been working on the student-led project as part of the enhancement theme, and we're now going to be producing our first resources, so I'll be sure to link them up for next council if anybody will be interested. So they're about equity and student experience. And 2 other things to note, as you might be aware, there haven't really been any changes to the setup of education from last term. So the education ministry remains cautious with their approach. So we're not relaxing any restrictions in higher education at the moment. And another thing that you could have seen on my report is that Aberdeen ECU has been reballoting to strike, and they have failed to meet the quota again. So they're unable to hold industrial action at this point. So, and I'm planning a conference that is an in-person conference with the enhancement theme with the other team in start of June. So whoever gets to replace me, I would hopefully invite along. So it's a 2-day conference in Glasgow. So if you want to run for VP Education.
Okay, thank you very much, Andre. Are you sure everything is done? Okay, good. All right. Then we'll bid you good night. Unless anybody has any questions, of course. But if not, you can rest your voice. No questions or anything like that? think it's a good suggestion, Flora. Actually, it would help with times like this. But yeah, okay. So no questions then. For the Vice President for Education upon the work that he has done over the last month or so. Okay, we'll move on then. Could we have the Vice President for Sport, please? Always trying to bump up Adam's work report. I always put Adam last.
Yep. Hopefully you can hear me right. Unfortunately, my bedroom light is where I'm in my bedroom where the desk is, and the light is like right over my head. It's really annoying, but well, nevertheless, we'll get into it. So Vice President for Sport, Adam Lambert. So work report for December. What wasn't really up to whole entire pile, but I was a part of the recruitment panel for some ISA staff, and also met with the Blues committee, which we opened up our applications for Blues awards and stuff like that there, which we'll starting to go through in the next couple of weeks, and hopefully come with outcomes then shortly after. Also then just worked with some sports clubs, just ensuring that everyone got their sports grants paid out, and assisted with any clubs that had any complaints or anything to say about grants and stuff like that there. It wasn't too busy of a month, and I went on leave a couple of days, so yep, not really much there. But any questions at all, feel free to give me an email or a message at all, and I'll be happy to get back to you.
Question from Sophie.
Can she raise her hand again so I can find her to unmute her?
It's all right, I've got her. Sophie, you should be able to speak now. You should be able to speak now.
There we go.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I remember you mentioning improving communications between ASA and ASV at the last Student Council. I was wondering if you could update us on that, please.
I was what? Sorry?
I remember you mentioning about improving communications between ASA and ASV at last Student Council. I was wondering if you could give us an update on that.
Yeah, of course. So so I think I'd mentioned previously at the last Student Council that ASV were intending on getting more staff to help with the admin side of that they have there, because they're very understaffed around that. And they've got 2 new people in to help with admin stuff, I believe. But they have got a lot more staff in place now that are currently being trained for different sites, which again hopefully will take some of the workload off higher up staff that will then help in turn with, like, again, working alongside us and our admin stuff. So communication there's definitely improving. I would say that we also have a bi-weekly meetings, or it tends to be bi-weekly meetings with ASV staff as well, and there we are able to bring up any urgent concerns or problems and queries and stuff for them, and help work through and communicate there at the meetings.
Great, thank you.
Cool. Any further questions for the Vice President for Sport? Doesn't look like it. Okay then, I think that's all then, Adam.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. I suppose that we'll go to the Vice President for Welfare. Please. Hello.
Hello, good evening, everybody, or if you're in a different time zone, have a good time zone. Happy New Year. I'm Ivana. I'm the VP for Welfare, and I use she, her pronouns. Speaking of pronouns, you can now add your pronouns on Blackboard. So please use the feature if you feel comfortable to do so. It was one of my manifesto points, so I'm glad that's completely completed now. Another thing I've been working on is the student mental health agreement. There is going to be launch next Monday. Please come along if you're in Aberdeen. It's going to be in Union Brew. We'll have 2 therapist dogs there as well, and I'll sign the agreement. We'll have cake and tea. We'll have student support services there, so it will be hopefully good time for all. And you can find out more about the agreement there. So that's something I've been working on. Another thing I've been working on is we've added escape button to our website. So at some of the pages, you'll be able to find the escape button. And if you quickly need to leave the page because of the information that's on the website, you'll be able to click and it will direct you to Google. So hopefully that will help some folk if needed. I've also hosted series of Take a Break event, which was events alongside with the student experience team at the university, where we were in the library, the medical library, and in Union Brew, and we gave out some freebies during exam time just to make sure students take a break and chill out for a bit. Last but not least, I'm also the student code of conduct review started. So that's something I've been looking into cases on the committee as well. So we are working together with the university to make sure the new code of conduct is more inclusive and covers all of the areas that we needed to cover to make sure if something happens, the students are safe. And I am also working alongside NUS Scotland. They are working with the government on a review of the halls of residence, which are privately owned. So I'm looking into that and hoping to put some of my manifesto ideas through that review to cover all of the Scottish PBSAs. So if you have any questions, you can email me or ask me now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ivana. Okay. Any questions for the Vice President for Welfare? Any comments? Or as I used to say, comments, criticisms, questions, anything along those lines? Doesn't look to be anything currently, but of course you can always get in touch via email or any other way that the Vice President sees fit. Okay. Thank you, Ivana. Okay, finally then, could we have the Vice President for Communities, Camilo?
Hi, everyone. This is Camilo, Vice President for Communities. I was on annual leave most of the past month, so I don't have like a written update. So basically, I'm just what I've been doing in the past week since I came back. So we've been working on organizing the events for refreshers, and also I've been attending. We started attending specific meetings about decolonizing the curriculum because we're kind of in a new phase of the project. So we are in subcommittees now with very specific tasks, and it's kind of like the project is starting to take more form than before. It was mostly exploratory. So any questions about that or any ideas are welcome. And in addition to that, also, in the past month, just before I went into League, I participated in a couple of panels to hire new staff for the university and for AUSA. specifically for university, specifically about a position for head of advertisement and communications, and also for positions in AUSA. And finally, this past week, I've been mostly busy with campus tours for new students, for returning students that want to know more about the university, and also in some induction events for international students and for students from the International Student Center at the university, like students that are willing, in the process of becoming full students of the university. So it's mostly been that, welcoming events and just preparing for refreshers. Just want to invite everyone to check our social media and communications and make sure you get your tickets for the events. That's it.
Okay, thank you for that update, Camilla. Very nice. Okay, so does anybody have any questions, comments, or criticisms, or anything like that regarding Camilla's work report? Harnum, what do you have to say on the matter?
I just wanted to ask Camilla. He said he was looking, if this is correct, to try and get more staff for AUSA. Would he be able to say what roles they would be? If you can't, that's fine. But it's just just wondering for yeah. Thanks.
Camilla?
Yeah, we've been we're not necessarily opening new positions. It's just replacing some workers that have moved to a different position. So we're just interviewing for positions that already existed. So it's not really new positions. So one of them is events coordinator. So hopefully we'll have them working soon in the next couple of weeks. And also we were doing, not me personally, but I was also doing interviews for a new a receptionist who is already working. Yeah, so again, not necessarily new positions, but just filling positions that had been left free in the past months.
Okay, thank you very much. Does that suitably answer your question, Harnum?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thanks. Nice to hear from you. Okay, does anybody else have any other comments or questions, criticisms, anything like that? Anything that they want to know or say to the Vice President for Communities at this time? No? Okay. Okay then, well, if that's the case, that brings us to the end of the Sabbatical Officer Accountability session, the end of that agenda point, and we are now moving on to the committee and fora updates. So this is the optional updates from the forums, and I throw it open to the leaders of the committees and the leaders of the forums out there. If you have any updates to give us, do please make us aware of them now, either by putting them in chat and I will read them out for you, or you can raise your hand and I will invite you to speak in turn. So if any of the committee leaders or forum leaders have any interesting updates or anything that they want to make council aware of, now is the time to do so. Just give everybody a few seconds. Okay, a message from, I believe it's Shan, isn't it? The Disabled Students Forum AGM is 5 p.m. on the 31st of January. Okay, just to make everybody aware of that, for anybody who may be interested in getting involved with that. The AGM is 5 p.m. on the 31st of January. Okay. Thanks for that one. Any further updates or messages or anything along those lines? Doesn't look like it. Okay, then we shall move on. We'll move on, if that's okay with everybody. Actually, I believe that that's the end of the normal business. The AOCB is, as far as I'm aware, empty with the exception of the feedback. Is that correct, everybody? Have I got that right, Ellie?
Yep, just the feedback link. I'll pop in the chat just now.
Okay, so this is just the standard feedback link, I believe. It's just let us know what you thought about the council. What did you think about the rearrangement, particularly? We'd like to know about that, about the movement of some things to the start, some things to the end. One thing that I would say that I didn't take a note of before this council came to be was that the co-options would be moved to the end. I'll probably have that changed back so that the co-options once again go back to the start, so that anybody who gets co-opted will be done so at the start. That's my fault, so I'm sorry particularly to Yuki about that, but that was just a bit of an oversight. But the important thing is the accountability sessions, moving those to the end and moving the motions to the start. So if you want to put anything in the forums to let us know what you thought of that, please do so now. And Anthony, do you have a question or a comment or anything like that? Sorry, give me a second.
Thanks. Anthony, Vice Chair of the Communities Committee. Is it fine to mention any other competent business item here?
Yeah, I believe so, yeah.
Cheers. Not directly related to the Communities Committee, but just I know there's a lot of people here who are involved in societies and student groups and so on. If you ever want to have an event or something advertised, do let us know at the Gaudi, editor at the Gaudi, because we're always happy to advertise student societies events, whether that's online or in print. So do just send us an email and let us know. Cheers.
Okay, thank you for that, Anthony. Forward there from the Gaudi. Okay, thanks for that. Does anybody have anything else that needs to be brought to light or dealt with or otherwise discussed? If not, do please just fill in the form via the link that's been provided for you to give feedback about the arrangement for this council. Like I said, co-options I think will be moved back to the start, but the arrangement other than that could be kept the way it is if people want it to be kept the way it is. Okay, so other than that then, I believe that that's the end of the meeting. It is Burns night, so if anybody wants to do any renditions or poetry, now is the time to volunteer. If that is not the case, then we'll end the meeting there. Thank you everybody for coming. Yeah, okay. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, see you all later on, okay? If anybody's going out to any Kalus or anything like that, be careful, but have a nice time. And see you all in a bit.